Hey everybody, this is Brian with another Bible video that we're recording, working our way through the book of John, and I'm still in chapter 1, but that's going to finish with this video. And in the last video, we had a chance to talk about Jesus and his casualness. This one, we're going to see more casualness, so the casualness is continued. We have Andrew following him, Peter's following him, probably John. I'm going to say probably the Apostle John, not John the Baptist, but the Apostle John is probably following him right now. And more casualness is happening. But there's something else here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that before I read. A lot of times we come very accustomed to how we picture things should be, where things should come from, where the good comes from, where the bad comes from. We make philosophies around this. We make our our biases around this. We start to think, "Oh, I'm this kind of person, but that's that kind of person." So, there's no way that kind of person could really have any sort of good coming from them. Well, we're going to see a little bit of that here in this passage, right here, in John chapter 1, verses 43 through 51. Okay, so this is where chapter 1 ends. And Jesus picks up a couple more disciples on the way. And yeah, we're going to talk about that because I think this is really interesting. I think that it shows a bit of Jesus's humble background. I mean, he has already been an immigrant. You know, he was an immigrant child going over the border to Egypt, where Joseph and Mary raised him for at least part of his life before they came back to Israel during his childhood. Now, what we only see a little bit of his childhood when he was at a temple answering questions of the adults there, and people were stunned. They were stunned by his wisdom, and Mary says, Mary and Joseph are like, "Why didn't you follow us when we left?" And he said, "Didn't you know where I'd be? I was going to be at my father's house." So there he was at the temple, and they had a good think about that, knowing that God is Jesus' father. So that's a little bit of his childhood. But here we have a little bit of his locality, the town that he comes from. And well, let's look at this. I'll get more into that as I read. Jesus calls Philip and Nathanael. In the next day, Jesus decided to leave Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, "Follow me." Philip and Andrew and Peter was from the town Bethesda. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph." So he's going into his history. He's talking about who his father is. So so at this point it looks like Joseph is still on the scene. Joseph is still around. But we don't see him talked about very much in the crucifixion, which makes me wonder if he died somewhere in that period of time of Jesus' life. We see a lot of talk about Mary, but around time of the crucifixion, we don't see Joseph very much. But it looks like Joseph is still on the scene at this point. It seems like he's still alive, and people are saying he's Joseph's son. Now, it could be that that's just like a title that gets handed down, and people know of know about Joseph being, you know, around this area. but I feel like it shows a presence that you could still think about. Joseph's boy. So I think that Joseph might is probably still around at this point. Nazareth. Can anything good come from there? Nathaniel asked. Okay, so there we have it. We have Nathaniel saying, "Can anything good come from there?" And I've heard that locally here in Maryland. I've heard that in Europe where people talk about other countries. And I've heard it in Europe locally. Can anything good come from there? So, apparently Nazareth does not have a great reputation. Sometimes there could be a variety of reasons why in our lives we think that a place is unworthy of us. So this, but God uses things that are beyond our own perceptions. One of the things I like in the movie Aladdin is that they keep talking about Aladdin as though he's this diamond in the rough. He's something good coming from a less than fortunate background. Now, Jesus is a carpenter, a son of a carpenter, and so he's just people would think he's just this average workman from a place that's apparently not that great. Well, Philip responds to this. Philip responds to Nathaniel's comment of, "Can anything good come from there?" referring to Nazareth. And Philip says, "Come and see." Again, a casual is like, "Check this out." When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching him, he said, "He is here is the true Israelite, in whom there is nothing false." "How do you know me?" Well, that's an interesting thing to say to Nathanael. Here is the true Israelite, in whom there is nothing false. That speaks a lot of Nathanael's character, though he does seem a little bit skeptical about towns like Nazareth. "How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you." So Jesus is kind of like seeing things a little bit beyond. It's like, for one, he knew that Philip called him. Two, now that could have been something that Philip said, hey, you guys stay here. I'm going to go get my friend Nathaniel. So that could explain that. But Nathaniel seems to be really startled by this. He says, "I saw you while you were under the fig tree." He could have been, it sounds like he was probably by himself. We don't exactly have the sort of connections that we do right now. There's no security cameras around. There's no social media posts where you're saying, "Hey guys, I'm going to chill by the fig tree for a while. Hashtag fig tree chill." Okay, that's not happening here. So with that lack of connectedness that they had back then, Nathaniel seemed pretty amazed. It's like, "You saw me by the fig tree? You knew that I was there?" Then Nathaniel declared, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God." Okay, he's pretty impressed by this sight of revelation that Jesus is displaying. "You are the King of Israel." So it looks like Nathaniel was waiting for this. I mean, Christ apparently knows his heart, saying, "This is a true Israelite, in whom there is nothing false." So, a very, very strong statement to Nathaniel's character. And Nathaniel quickly jumps into believing that Jesus Christ is the Messiah that they are waiting for. Jesus said, "You believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree." Again, this is a miracle. This is a miracle that's happening. Uh, for some reason, no one was supposed to know that he was under the fig tree. "You shall see greater things than that." And that's also true. Some of these miracles that Jesus is performing, you know, he just knew where Nathanael was. And I guess Nathanael knows there's no reason for anyone to know that he was underneath the fig tree. So that small miracle was enough to ignite Nathanael's faith, which is very, very interesting. And I guess this proves to him that something good can come from Nazareth as well. So with that in mind, you might want to think about some of the neighborhoods that you kind of think, nothing good can come from there. And you might want to rethink your thinking a little bit. Whether it's an economically poor neighborhood where, people struggle with different things, an economically rich neighborhood where you expect people to just kind of look down at everybody who isn't on the same economic level as them, or to have kind of an ivory tower sort of outlook of life. Good things can come from anywhere. And I think Jesus is living proof of that to Nathanael right now. Then, let's see, he then added, "I tell you the truth. You shall see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." So yeah, that's huge. That is a huge prophecy and promise for Nathanael right there. I do like that Nathanael was being a bit of a smart mouth, but at the same time, disrespected Nazareth. That might not have been great, but Jesus seems to more than help Nathanael eat his words then. So yeah, great things that God has for us can come from anywhere. And we should be a little bit more open to the variety of things that are available to us, that God puts in front of us. Because if we're not trying to see through God's eyes, we could very well miss a lot of the good things that he's providing. All right, well, that's it for now. Next week, I'll be in John chapter 2. So John chapter 2, Jesus changes water into wine. Okay. So this is often thought of as Jesus' first miracle, but we'll get into that. We'll get into a little bit more of that later. All right. Because it says on the third day, if you think about it, it's not his first miracle. At the very most, it could be the third miracle. But I'll get into that later as well. All right. See you guys. Take care. God bless. And have a great week. Stop the recording. Stop it.